Ladies and gentlemen, greetings from Fort Benning. For those of you who are not able to join us this morning, this afternoon we'll have presentations from Lieutenant General John Jensen, Director, Army National Guard, National Guard Bureau, along with presentations by Brigadier General Matthew Van Wagenen, Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations, Allied Rapid Reaction Corps, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, Lieutenant General Thomas James, Commanding General, 1st United States Army, and General Paul LaCamera, Commanding General, United States Army Pacific, along with closing remarks by Major General Patrick Donahoe. Again, we would like to remind everyone to visit our pre-recorded Maneuver Warriors Corners at your convenience. And also, just a reminder, once a session is completed, you must return to the agenda page and click on the next session to view it. Our next speaker of the day served in key leadership positions in light and armored formations both in CONUS and OCONUS over the last 30 years. He has operational combat tours in Kuwait, Bosnia, and Iraq. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to introduce the Director, Army National Guard, National Guard Bureau, Lieutenant General John Jensen.
Greetings to my capstone classmate, Major General Pat Donahoe, the Maneuver Center of Excellence, and everyone at Fort Benning, Georgia. I apologize for not being live virtually with you today, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the Army National Guard and our support to the total Army effort. The Army National Guard is the combat reserve for the United States Army, standing the test of time in a readiness capacity since 1636. And as the Army moves forward with multi-domain operations, we will be ready to support that advancement. When you look at the array of missions we are asked to accomplish and the number of soldiers that each one of those missions is drawing from, it is unprecedented. Our ability to meet our overseas mission during a time of COVID-19 response and restrictions, provide support to civil unrest missions, the Southwest Border Mission, and natural disasters such as hurricanes and wildfires is a testament that the Army National Guard is better today than it has ever been. We accomplish those missions because we have great soldiers who have great families and employers who support them. Our activity overseas as it relates to gift map missions and contingency operations has helped professionalize our force. Our soldiers and our leaders have more experience today than they have any time since World War II. We are much better prepared for the missions we are supporting, and it speaks well to the health of our organization. This symbol, the mission Triad, is our brand. We prioritize based on these three missions: supporting the warfight, securing the homeland, and building enduring partnerships. These missions are intertwined, where the capability built in one strengthens and reinforces the others. The Minuteman in the middle represents our heritage and connects the earliest citizen soldiers to today's full spectrum soldiers and airmen. It also reflects the foundation upon which the National Guard is built: our soldiers and airmen, their families, and their communities, with invaluable support from their employers. We don't seek to be the fight tonight force for the overseas warfight. We have an important role as a combat reserve and provider of enabling forces. We provide capability and capacity to the total Army. But we do see ourselves as the Respond Tonight force at home, and it is the equipment and training we receive for the overseas warfight, in addition to the partnerships we forged with state and local agencies, first responders, and civic leaders that have made us incredibly successful at performing non-federal DISCA. The Army National Guard is the military's first domestic responder for two key reasons. The governors have instant access to us, and we are dispersed among 2,600 communities across the nation. We train to the Army standard and are proven in combat. We possess civilian skills that are very effective in any number of Army missions. The following slides will outline our Army National Guard force structure, our readiness synergy, both at warfighting and domestic capability, our current domestic operations, the extensive Army National Guard history, and Army National Guard global engagements. The Army National Guard provides the Army 39% of its operational force, with 8 division headquarters, 27 brigade combat teams, 42 multifunctional brigades, 56 functional support brigades, 1 SFAB, and 2 special forces groups. geographically dispersed throughout the 54 states and territories of the United States, each postured to mobilize and deploy overseas in support of the warfight, and also standing by in the homeland, ready to respond to natural disasters, civil disturbances, and the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The Army National Guard's dual-purpose mission provides very unique capabilities, enabling our forces to perform a wide range of operations both at home and abroad. Given the complex challenges that continue to evolve both domestically and overseas, the Army National Guard's ability to maintain a synergy of readiness makes it a key partner for the active Army and a smart investment for the long-term future of the total force. The Army National Guard readiness for our mission essential tasks, developed through federally funded individual and collective training, produces critical capabilities across the force stationed in all 54 states and territories. These critical capabilities, like force projection, mission command, sustainment, and protection, are applicable to both domestic response requirements and global operations in the competitive space. While the tasks associated with these two different areas of responsibility are drastically different, the environments are similar. Global competition and domestic response present multiple threats with complex and dynamic problem sets that must be solved by dispersed units and leaders. The readiness generated in training creates the agility and adaptability for our Army National Guard soldiers and leaders to apply our critical capabilities to any and all requirements. The harder we train for our wartime mission, the better we become in our domestic responsiveness. The Army National Guard is the nation's first responder, responsible for defending the homeland, providing support to civil authorities and citizens in our communities during times of emergency. Living and working in nearly 3,000 communities, the National Guard is often the face of the military across the nation. It connects America to the United States military. The Army National Guard has a long and proud history of defending the nation and supporting our citizens. As the oldest component of the United States Army, we have always answered our state's and our nation's call. We invented the all-volunteer force in 1636. The spirit and commitment of the citizen soldiers supported the formation of our nation in the American Revolution, held it together during the Civil War, protected our borders after the turn of the 20th century, fought for and ensured freedom during World War I and World War II, and contained communism in Korea, Vietnam, and during the Cold War. The total force policies of the post-Vietnam era brought new challenges and fresh opportunities for the Army National Guard. The hard work and lessons learned through the quarter decade resulted in an operationally prepared and responsive Army National Guard that never lost its identity as a community-based organization. We simultaneously fought global terrorism and provided relief to our neighbors through historical natural disasters. Today, we continue to maintain our identity and heritage as citizen soldiers, prepared to respond to disaster at home and prevail in strategic competition throughout the world. The Army National Guard provides combatant commanders a lever of full-time engagement to shape their areas of responsibility through the State Partnership Program. Army National Guard states are partners with 84 different nations from every geographic combatant command AOR. This allows the U.S. to close the competitive space to our adversaries, providing enduring capability for U.S. access and influence in the regions. Strategically, the SPP improves the military professionalism and capability of the associated nation, enabling them to become a security provider instead of a security consumer. This program also enables a broadening experience for Army National Guard soldiers at every echelon, which directly contributes to increased awareness and understanding of operational and strategic outcomes in the competitive space. As the Army moves toward implementing the next phases of multi-domain operations, the Army National Guard stands ready to support when needed, to fight America's wars, secure the homeland, and to continue building enduring partnerships. We are always ready, always there. And now Major General Mark Anderson, Deputy Commanding General with TRADOC, will answer your questions. Thank you.
General Anderson, sir, how do you read this station?
I can read you fine. Can you read me?
Yes, sir, loud and clear. Sir, I'm Colonel Chris Budas. I'm Chief of Staff at Fort Benning. I'll be facilitating the question and answer period. Sir, the first question from the field is the following. Considering the current op tempo that Lieutenant General Jensen alluded to in his presentation for responding to domestic events for example, COVID, civil disturbances, and natural disasters, plus worldwide deployments. Can you talk about some of the greatest challenges and opportunities that Guard soldiers, in particular leaders, deal with balancing both a military career and a civilian career, while also building and sustaining readiness for the Army Guard?
Thank you for that question. Excellent. I do want to say thanks to General Donahoe for inviting Lieutenant General Jensen to speak this afternoon to this esteemed group. And I know General Jensen apologized up front not being able to be there himself or present live. His commitments coming in as the director very recently, in fact, obviously just overtook events. But to the question, the Army National Guard's motto of always ready, always there, it really is front and center in the majority of the symbology and the branding of the National Guard. But it's really the citizen soldier concept that was born out of the militia and continues today in our formation. So I really would answer that question probably with three broad responses. Time, maintaining professional military education or PME, and predictability. So first, time. Generally we require our soldiers to train 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks of collective training each year. So if you do the math, a little over 60 days of training if you add everything up. But really that is not reality. Most of our formations, especially our combat formations, are involved in the Mission Command Training Program, other training exercises, both CONUS and OCONUS. And all of these are important and necessary for our soldiers and organizations to remain prepared to execute their wartime mission if called upon. So the reality is that many of our soldiers are performing their military duties about 75 days a year. Now the leaders are a different situation entirely, and probably is where we have the most stress on our particular force, especially our mid-grade officers and our NCOs. On top of what I outlined already about the majority of the force, that's 60 days, our leaders are, of course, conducting training meetings, staff seminars, and preparation for those exercises that I previously mentioned, plus the normal administrative duties associated with running their formations. So when you add all of that up, our leaders are generally doing 85 to 100 days a year in uniform. So I really would just ask everybody in the audience to put themselves in that same situation. Take whatever military assignment you currently are in and carve out 85 to 100 days each year that you physically cannot perform that job. And I think most people would find it very challenging to accomplish while managing the high standards that soldiers really demand of ourselves. So second, PME. We require the exact same military education requirements for all of our leaders across all three compos. That is what it needs to be in order to maintain consistency and professionalism across the Army, and that's really why, and General Jensen pointed it out, especially since 9/11, that our formations have been able to mobilize and deploy time and again and successfully complete their wartime missions. Our National Guard leaders generally have two options in completing their PME, resident or a hybrid of resident and distance learning. Often our leaders have to choose the hybrid option, which again requires additional time. So kind of additive to the comments I made earlier with regards to training days. Generally that hybrid training or virtual training, I should say, is asynchronous. So our leaders are using their evenings and weekend hours to complete their professional military education. If it happens to be synchronous, then they have to consider taking time off from their civilian career in order to complete the training. There's no perfect answer to this except to realize that our National Guard leaders are completing their PME concurrent with whatever military assignment they are doing, as well as balancing their civilian careers. And then last is the predictability. The recent increase in op-tempo for domestic operations in particular has led to new challenges of providing mobilization predictability for our Army Guard soldiers in terms of the type of mission, the length, and its scope. Throughout GWAT during both OEF and OIF, and really more recently during Army Guard rotations such as MFO and K4, our planning capabilities have really become streamlined to the point that in most circumstances, mobilizing units receive their NOS over a year in advance, followed by alert orders and mobilization orders some months in advance as well. Our Army Guard soldiers know their departure date and generally understood also their return date based upon the length of their orders. The mobilization predictability allowed our Army Guard soldiers sufficient time to plan and prepare for their absence. And so they had sufficient time to ensure their families were prepared, had sufficient resources available to them, and that they could communicate with their civilian employers to ensure a smooth transition, both before their departure and, of course, upon their eventual return after to work after mobilization. This increased op tempo for the domestic operations has really changed this predictability. Our Army Guard responses to COVID-19, civil disturbances, the recent natural disasters, both the hurricanes and the wildfires, such as out in California, have resulted in soldiers being mobilized much more rapidly and frequently, and often with times or 4 times with more open-ended periods of orders. Although we understand that these types of orders, or mobilizations I should say, really represent the spirit of the National Guard's motto of always ready, always there. And our Guardsmen, no doubt about it, take great pride in performing these missions to protect their fellow neighbors' lives and property. But historically, these types of mobilizations have been more infrequent and are generally relatively brief in length. So it is kind of noteworthy to remind everybody, you know, that we're currently in the largest domestic mobilization of the National Guard in U.S. history. The National Guard, as General Jensen pointed out, has in the range of approximately 30,000 plus soldiers and airmen from all 54 states and territories that have been continuously mobilized in support of domestic operations since this early spring. And these data points really kind of signal the current challenges that our Army Guard soldiers and leaders are dealing with as they balance their military careers with their civilian careers. However, it also demonstrates opportunities for advanced training, or enhanced training, I should say, enhanced readiness, and also, you know, further developing the leadership of our Army Guard soldiers. It also validates the concept that our readiness for the warfight also really equates to readiness for the domestic operations. And it proves that our Army Guard units and the soldiers stand ready to respond to a host of current challenges, whether OCONUS or CONUS. Subject to any follow-ups, that's probably the best answer I can give you there.
Sir, thank you very much. So our next question from the field is the following. With an increased emphasis in Army lethality in preparation for large-scale combat operations, and with the limited time available to both the Army and the Air Guard, what techniques or technology is the Guard using to increase this lethality?
Oh, excellent question. You know, I think there's there's a few things that we've been doing already for some time, and some things that I think we can take advantage of, especially that's being developed in the with synthetic training. First of all, you know, as I pointed out early on, our training days are limited, and so when we get our formations together, or we're doing individual training, we really have to pay attention, obviously, to time. Time's the critical resource in most cases. You could also point to dollars in some respects, but you know, we've been lucky, I think, as an Army and as an Army National Guard, particularly since 9/11, that we've had fairly robust budgets and have had the ability to train when we need to, using whatever resources you know, are currently available. So it really boils down to the time, as you point out. So you know, our leaders really have to focus on making sure that one, that at the individual level, our soldiers are, you know, technically proficient in their particular MOS, whatever job they might be, and competent in whatever assignment that they're currently performing. And so it really boils down to ensuring that when they get together for training, that, you know, there really is no time for doing anything fluff, if you want to call it, because time really, again, is the factor. And so as commanders, both our first line leaders, our unit commanders, especially at the company battery, detachment level, really have to pay attention to their training calendars, their training schedules, and ensure that they're remaining on time. Of course, there's always a host of administrative functions or requirements that are that the units are required to conduct, and so it's finding unique opportunities, or unique ways, I should say, to deliver that type of training to the soldiers. So getting to the synthetic training, going into the future, of course, some of the training that we do already is synthetic based, and it's gotten obviously tremendously better for the Army as a whole over the years. But I think with everything that's going on with the synthetic training environment, and the improvement in the platforms and the media that training is delivered to the soldiers, really offers opportunities for the units to, if you want to say, sharpen the pencil, so to speak, and really make sure that the soldiers are training on the exact tasks that are necessary for them to, to maintain proficiency in their particular MOS. I think it also allows the organizations to take advantage of, I think of in the synthetic training environment again, where they have the ability to project themselves into they can create the environment that they need in order to provide variability to the operational environment, to stress the soldiers as they become proficient in the task in one particular environment, or maybe at an easier level, that they are then able to ramp it up and create a more difficult environment for them to perform that same task.
Thank you, sir. So our next question from the field is the following. Based on the current op tempo that the Guard is undergoing, as you mentioned, with COVID and such, is the length and content of the resident reserve component PME for both officers and NCOs appropriate to prepare Guardsmen for a future potential fight with a near-peer threat?
Boy, that's an excellent question, and I think that's one that I think everybody is kind of wrestling with right now. With COVID, of course, I'm doing this. We're doing this conference virtually. I operate, or I'm assigned as the Army National Guard DCG at TRADOC out at Fort Eustis. But currently, I'm back in. If you're looking in the background behind me, I'm in my residence back in Wisconsin. And because of travel restrictions early on, I was conducting all of my my activities virtually, and I've done training, some of my PME, both in a virtual environment and, of course, resident. I don't think anybody would argue the fact that a resident training experience, PME or otherwise, is probably the best. But I think we're also recognizing, especially in the current environment, that virtual can have its place with regards to delivering a certain type of training to a soldier based on his or her availability, or potentially because of geographic restrictions, whatever it might be. And so maintaining in an MDO environment, of course, is going to require, I think, a lot of changes in some of the training that the Army delivers to the soldiers, really all compos, with regards to how are we going to operate in a much more contested environment. And we experience that as National Guardsmen. I mean, especially since 9/11, General Jensen pointed it out. We have been extremely busy, and right alongside Compo 1 and Compo 3 brothers and sisters, in all theaters across the world, and so maintaining that professionalism, that proficiency, really does require that there is no difference in the level of training or education that our soldiers as National Guard soldiers would have versus an active component soldier or a reserve USAR soldier. And so maintaining that consistency, of course, is the challenge. Being able to balance, kind of as I alluded to my first question, or with the first question, balancing your civilian career along with your military career and your family time is a challenge. It has been up to this point. It will continue to be, and there are absolutely, like I mentioned, we see it with our mid-grade officers and NCOs. That's probably where we have our greatest challenge right now with regards to retaining strength, simply because it's those individuals that are in their civilian careers. They're generally, they're probably mid-level managers, depending upon their profession or their career. And we find them that a lot of them are mid-level managers, or they may be owners of small businesses. And so their time is extremely valuable. And so balancing that between their military and civilian becomes a challenge for them. And so the delivery of the training, I think, is just going to require the Army and the National Guard to make sure that whatever training we are delivering to our soldiers, PME or otherwise, is really sharpened to the point of need, and really making sure that we're only providing the absolute most critical tasks necessary to complete whatever PME might be required at the time for that leader. And then, but there is some requirements for the soldier too. As I mentioned, our soldiers spend a lot of time, of their own personal time, not on orders, in the evenings, on weekends, maintaining their professionalism, whatever it might be.
Sir, thank you very much for your presentation. Any final remarks?
Yeah, let me just close with one thing. And I'm just going to kind of pull together a little bit of the domestic piece. So and General Jensen talked to it a little bit, actually quite a bit. But we talk about experiences that our leaders have had over the years, and their assignments with the National Guard in particular, as having 39% of the combat formations, or formations, I should say, of the Army. We really see, a combination of the professional military education is important. Our assignments in key developmental positions is important, but also the opportunity to participate in and use of CTC rotations. We use something also in addition to the CTCs, an exportable CTC that the National Guard uses. Of course, our warfighters, in addition to a PME, but our Army Guard leaders and units really train and prepare for the warfight mission. But clearly, the training and readiness has been and continues to be successfully leveraged, especially right now during domestic operations. And by and large, DOMOps are experiences that are unique to the Army National Guard. And that's just by and large. It's not independent. But the Army Guards, our responses over this year to COVID-19, the multitude of civil disturbances and natural disasters really has demonstrated that our units stand ready to respond to a myriad of contingencies and operations. During these operations, our leadership, our soldiers' leadership, their teamwork, their experience are being developed and expanded throughout the Army Guard formations, really kind of demonstrating that unit readiness, the competence and cohesion are important byproducts of the domestic operations our units are in right now. Whether it's assisting local hospitals in response to COVID, working with state and local law enforcement for the civil disturbances, or coordinating like with DHS or FEMA in response to the hurricanes or the wildfires or other natural disasters. Our Army Guard leaders are really able to develop the versatility necessary to react to a wide range of complex problems, and think outside the box to develop viable solutions. And so, these experiences in operations increase the competence of our Army Guard leaders, and it provides them with a very unique perspective that is, in most cases, different from our other two compos. But again, I do want to say thanks to General Donahoe and the entire team at Fort Benning, and of course everybody that's listening in for the opportunity for General Jensen to speak and for me to answer a couple of questions.
Sir, thank you very much again.